Okay, why don't we go ahead and we'll read the introduction. It's called an introduction to the Gospel of John, but let's go ahead and read it. Ready? Go.
Introduction to the Gospel of John.
So, of course, as he mentioned, we'll be starting the college conference tomorrow night. Don't miss it. Yeah. And it will be on the Gospel of John, Part 1. Now, I don't know how many parts we're going to have because we're only going to go through Chapter 4 this weekend. So it could be Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, because it's a rich book. And the hard part about doing this, getting ready, was there's so much to share and so little time. So even if we don't reach the end of the outline, don't worry about it. If you come to Part 1, 2, and 3, you'll get everything. Okay, so I need a couple of helper brothers to look up some verses. Who can look up a verse for me? Okay, Will, can you get Luke 5:10? Luke 5:10, and then I need another brother to pick up another verse. Who else can do one? Okay, you got one? Okay, Eli, this is Matthew 4:21. Okay, so, the first Roman numeral, let's read that together. Ready? Go. John's ministry, mending ministry of life. Okay, let's read the verse. It's such a good verse. That they may have life and may have it abundantly. Okay, so, whenever the apostles were called by the Lord, they were doing something special that actually is related to their ministry later on. So when Peter was called by the Lord, what was he doing? Fishing, right? And he had a great fishing ministry. And so you think about all the people that Peter led to the Lord. I mean, there was the day of Pentecost, 3,000 got saved. When John and Peter, healed that crippled man, another 5,000 got saved. Then at the house of Cornelius, the Gentile part of the body got saved. I mean, you just see again and again, Peter was a fisher. So could we get Luke 5:10? Will, you have it ready? Yeah, stand up and read it loud.
And likewise also James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon.
Okay, now listen closely. Jesus said to Simon. Now let's hear what he said.
Do not be afraid, for now on you will be catching men alive.
Okay, so right at the beginning when Peter was called, the Lord said, don't be afraid. From now on, you're going to be catching men alive. So Peter's ministry was a fishing ministry. Okay, then let's, who's going to do, why don't you go ahead and stand up and do Matthew 4:21.
And going on from there, he saw another two brothers, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, in the boat with Zebedee their father, mending their nets, and he called them.
Okay, so what were they doing? John and his brother, what were they doing when he got called? Mending his nets, or mending their nets? Mending their nets. So John was mending the nets when he was called, and so his ministry, what we call a mending ministry of life. So in order to understand this first little section on a mending ministry of life, I've got, first of all, this is kind of like a pop test right now, and what I'd like you to do is to write down when you think the Gospel of John was written. Now, you can't cheat, you can't Google it, you can't look at, your Bible that has when it was written. You just need to put down when you think it was written. I'll let you know when Matthew was written, just to kind of give you kind of a reference point. Matthew was written somewhere between 37 and 40 AD. That's when Matthew was written. So write down when you think the Gospel of John was written. And you might wonder, what are we doing this for? You'll see in a minute why this is so important. Okay, so let's ask a few of the freshmen. Stinger, have you got something written down? Did you write anything down, Stinger?
No, but I'll say...
Just take a guess.
47 AD.
Okay, 47 AD, okay. Hey, Josh Fick, what did you write down? 42 AD, okay. Eli, did you write anything down?
Oh, I put like 150 AD.
Okay. I think that's a little outside the box anyways. That's all right. That's okay. Zabian, what did you put down? 60, okay. Okay, sisters, how about? Okay, Lily Schmerich, I know you. Okay, what did you write down?
I didn't write anything down, but it's 90.
Okay, shh, don't say anything. Okay, Abby, did you write anything down?
No, I didn't write anything.
Okay, is it all just the brothers that wrote down? Did any of the sisters write anything down? Nobody? Jenna, did you write anything down?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wrote 45.
Okay, 45, okay. The Gospel of John, you can write this down, was written in 90 AD. Listen to this, some people even think that John was written after the book of Revelation. Revelation was also written sometime around 90 AD. Now, whether that's definitely true, I don't know if you heard that, Kyle, that some people think that. I'm not going to say definitely, but 90 AD is when the Gospel of John was written. Okay, why do I say this? Because there was a lot of time that passed from the time that the church came into being to this time, and a lot of things came in. And so because these things came in to damage the church, there was a need of mending. So let me just read, I'm going to read slowly to you a definition of mending, and it would be worth taking this down. Mending means that something has been, now listen to this, in existence for a length of time. Church was in existence till 90 AD when this book was written. For a length of time that it has been damaged, broken, or hurt, and that it now requires mending. That's the first part of the definition. So something that's been in existence for a length of time, it's been damaged, broken, or hurt, and it now requires mending. Here's the second part of the definition. Mending always restores a situation to the condition which was present at the beginning. It restores a situation to the condition which was present at the beginning. So not too long after the beginning that the church was formed, many things came in to kind of, you could say, break the church's net. And there were different teachings that came in. In Revelation, you have the teachings of the Nicolaitans. You have the teaching of Balaam. There were the Judaistic teachings, which were trying to keep the law at the same time be in the New Testament. There were the Gnostic philosophies. There were many, many different things that came in. And what these things did was they broke the net. And so there's a need, a desperate need, for the mending ministry of John to mend the net. This is why it's significant to know that it's 90 AD that this book was written. Okay, now it's a ministry of life. So would any brother come up here and just give me a definition of the three words that we use for life in the New Testament? It's not hard. This is not hard. Does anybody, like Isaac, I see you sitting there. Do you know the three words for life in Greek? Oh, okay, come on up. This is not a trick question, Isaac. I'm sure you know this. Yeah, come on down. Do we have like a microphone for Isaac? Because we all want to hear his lovely voice.
I can probably speak.
Okay, you speak loud. Go. All right.
The three words for life in the Greek are bios, suke, and zoe.
Zoe. And then tell us a little bit about each one.
Sure. Bios is the physical life.
Okay.
Suke is the psychological life.
That's where we get the word psychology.
Psychology, that's right.
Okay.
And then zoe is the spiritual, more divine, the divine life.
Yeah, the uncreated.
The uncreated life of God.
There you go,
There you
the
go.
uncreated life of God. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so there are three words in Greek for life, and the life that we're talking about, the mending ministry of life, is Zoe. Now, do we have any girls here by the name of Zoe? None. There's a little girl in our home meeting, and her name is Zoe. It's so nice to be reminded. Zoe is an excellent name. It means the uncreated eternal life of God. So his ministry was a ministry of life, and in the Gospel of John, there is such an emphasis on this matter of life. Now, here's the next pop question. Don't worry, sisters, I'm not going to ask you. You just listen. If you want to take a guess, that's fine. I had 3 different brothers look into this before this meeting because I wanted to make sure I got this exactly. And they all concurred exactly. There was a little bit of a difference on some of them, but they went into the verbal form of Zoe, and I just really wanted the noun. So I want you to write down how many times you think the word Zoe or life is used in the Gospel of John. Just write down how many times you think it's used. Okay, you have, I'll give you some examples. You have, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. In him was life. I am come that you might have life. Life is there again and again and again in the Gospel of John. So write down how many times you think the word life is used in the Gospel of John. Okay, just in the Gospel of John, how many times? And then what I'd like you to do, put right next to that, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and how many times this word Zoe is used in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Totally. Okay, so do we have a brother that, okay, can we have a brother back there that put one down for Zoe? Okay, go ahead. What'd you put?
So 90 times in the book of John and 30 times in the book of John.
Okay, 90 and 30. Little high. Little high. No, but what you're saying, just the kind of the breakdown of it is pretty good, but it's just a little high. Okay, anybody else for life in John? Anybody else? Okay, Mario, did you write down some numbers? What'd you put?
15 and 40.
50 and 40, okay. Anybody else? Let me see. Brandon, what'd you put down?
60 and 25.
60 and 25. Well, you guys are big for Zoe. It's a lot, but it's not quite that much. Okay, you ready? Okay. Caleb, you got one? Okay, go ahead.
32 and 29.
Okay, that's pretty close, but not exactly. 36 times this word life is used in the Gospel of John. 36 times. And in all the other Gospels, they're called the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, totally 16 times. That's it. 16 times. So more than twice as much as all the other Gospels, this word life is used in the Gospel of John. And this to me is a big thing to realize, that when we go to this college conference tomorrow and in the future times, we have to realize when you look at this book, you have to realize that this book is a book that's focused on the life of God being dispensed into our being to meet our every need. This is why it's so important to realize that the real one that can mend all the ones in the spiritual net, all the broken places, is Christ as our life. Okay, and that brings us, of course, to the definition of life. Could we go ahead and just read number 2 together very quickly? The definition. Okay, could the girls read 11:25? Okay, brothers on this one. 14:6. Okay, so in a very simple definition, Christ is life. Now, I know there's other definitions that are quite complicated, and they include, all the persons of the triune God, but this is the most basic definition. Christ is life. And as good as that is, we can stand up, every one of us, I just say, hey, Eli, what's life? What's the definition of life? What is it? Okay, but what is it?
Christ.
Yeah, it's just Christ. It's so easy. Christ is life. The question is, we might know the definition that Christ is life, but we might not have much experience of Christ as life. And so that's why I have Roman numeral 3 here. Let's go ahead and read the number 3. Ready? Go.
The genuine experience of life. Christ as God himself descends into our being.
Okay, could we have the girls on 4:14 and the brothers on the 1s and 6? Ready, girls? Go.
The
Okay, and then the brothers.
Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall by no means hunger. As the living Father has sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who eats me, he also shall live because of me.
Okay, so when you eat something, what happens to it? Okay, when you eat something, what happens to it when you eat it? It gets wrought into you. When you drink something, what happens to you? It's dispensed into you, you know, and it's like when you eat the bread and you get the water, you have the life. Not just in term, not just I know the definition of life, but the life actually becomes your experience when you eat the bread and you drink the water. Eventually, you have life and experience. This is why the Bible is just replete with drinking and eating and receiving and enjoying and being filled. I mean, words like that are just replete throughout the Bible because it's not good enough just to know that Christ is life. We need to take Christ in and Him become a very part of our being. He has to come into us and we enjoy eating Him as the bread of life. We enjoy drinking Him as the water of life. Okay, so then we'll go on to number 4. This is, I'll read it to you, the cases in John proving that Christ is life to meet our need. So with every gospel, the writer of the gospel is writing it in with a specific a specific purpose to prove that Jesus is something. So when Matthew wrote his gospel, he wrote it in a way to prove that Jesus is the King. And there are certain things in that gospel that you will not find in other gospels. Okay, one, for example, is the genealogy. And the genealogy, proves that he is a proper successor to the throne of David. And that genealogy is not like any other genealogy found in the Gospels. And then you think about Mark. Okay, what did he prove when he wrote about Jesus? What did he want to make known to people? He proved that Jesus is the slave savior. And there are some things that just stand out to you when you're reading the Gospel of Mark. Okay, first of all, does a slave have a proper genealogy? No, there's no genealogy in the Gospel of Mark. And the word that keeps coming up, I just challenge you, go read it, Mark, tonight. Just read the first couple of chapters. The word immediately comes up again and again and again in the Gospel of Mark. Because when you ask a slave to do something, you want him to just say, well, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Is that what you want when you ask a slave to do something? You want something done immediately. And so this word comes up again and again and again in the Gospel of Mark. And then there's this verse, and write this verse down. It's worth knowing this verse. This is Mark 10:45. And the Lord there says that the Son of Man, now listen closely, did not come to be served. The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life a ransom for many. In other words, why did the Son of Man come? To serve and to give his life a ransom for many. That's, I would say, the touchstone verse of Mark. Then you get to Luke, and what does Luke prove? When you read Luke, it proves that Jesus, the Savior of mankind, is a proper man. Okay, this is what Luke shows, that Jesus, the Savior of mankind, is a proper man. And again, he has a genealogy in his, because for a proper man, you need to have a genealogy. But do you know what that genealogy goes back to? Adam. It goes all the way back to Adam. It goes Adam, and it says the Son of God. And so Luke goes all the way back. And there's certain things in Luke that you will not find in the other Gospels. Okay, you'll find things like, the Good Samaritan, and how the man was walking down and he was beaten up, and the Good Samaritan picked him up and put oil and wine in his wounds and brought him to the inn. That's in no other gospel but in the Gospel of Luke. Then you'll have things like this in the Gospel of Luke. When the thieves are on the cross and one of them says to the Lord, remember me in your kingdom, what did the Lord say? Today you'll be with me in paradise. you just see here, he's a man that's a Savior. And there's certain things that you just don't see in other Gospels, but you see it in Luke. So when you come to John, what you see is, you see that Christ, listen closely, is life, which we already established. Christ is life to meet man's every need. Christ is life to meet man's every need. And in all the different things that are going to follow here, there's different cases here in the Gospel of John, and they show how he meets different people's needs. So, for instance, like the first one, the need of the moral. Life's regenerating, okay? All right, you need a couple of brothers to come up here, volunteers. Okay, so who can come up? Okay, come on up. Caleb, and who else? Okay, come on up, Josh. Yeah. Okay, which one of you guys wants to be Nicodemus? Okay, okay, let me ask you a question. Do either one of you live with other brothers that are here tonight? Okay, I need a brother to come up that lives with other brothers that lives with other brothers. Could somebody come up that lives with other brothers? Oh, okay, come on up. Yeah. Okay, Grant's coming up. Okay. Hey, Julian, come on up. We'll make room for you. Come on up, Julian. Okay, so you guys are over here on this side. Okay, because I can have as many as I want on this side. There's only one Nicodemus. Okay, so think about this. Here's Nicodemus, and he had a lot of really good attributes. Okay, first of all, he was one that was honest. Okay, so we can put a little H there. He was honest. And the reason we know that is because he said, we know that you're a teacher come from God. He was very honest. Then not only was he honest, he was humble. And we know he was humble because he said rabbi, which was a real humility to call Jesus rabbi. And we know also that he knew the scriptures quite well because he was a Pharisee. So he was honest, he was humble, he knew the scriptures very well. We also know that he was older, experienced person, had a lot of wisdom. And then we also know that he was a leader of the Jews. So think of all the things here. He's honest, he's humble, he knows the scriptures, he's a leader, all these different things. And it's kind of hard to find any fault in him. And then the Lord said, well, I'm not looking at your faults, but you still are missing something. What you need is another life. You might have a very good human life, but Nicodemus, you need another life. You must be what? Born again. You know, if it was the sinful woman, we would say, yes, she needs another life. That's right. You know, but no. What the Lord did, think about this. He picked a man that was so good in every way, and he said, this person needs another life. You must be born again. Okay, so then I'll ask, okay, let me get Julian over here. Okay, so are all your brothers here? Who are the ones? Raise your hand if you live with Julian. Okay, first of all, is he honest? Okay, is he humble? Does he really know the scriptures?
Not yet.
Okay. Is he a leader among your people? Okay, is he full of human life experience? Okay, listen, I guarantee most of us, oh wait, Grant, come on up here. Okay, Grant. Okay, so here's Grant. We're the ones that live with Grant. Same people. Okay, so we'll go through the list again. Is he honest? Just crickets. Okay. Is he humble? Okay, we got a yeah. Okay. Okay, does he know the scriptures? Okay, yeah. Is he a leader among God's people? Oh. Okay, you have to live close to him to know, And then in the last one, all these different things. Is he really experienced, full of human experience? A little quiet. Okay, so you just look at these two. I just picked up, it could be any one of us come up here. Very, very few of us could measure up to Nicodemus. Very few of us. And yet, to this one, I really want to impress you with this. To this one, he said, you need another life. You need to be born again. One time I was preaching the gospel on the campus, and I talked to this person, and he said, I have no sin. And, right away, you're thinking, wow, what am I going to say? This guy's really blind. He says he has no sin. And, like some of the, typical stuff I'd say is, really? You never lied? Or, wait a minute, you never did this or that? But this time I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I started talking to him. I said, you remind me of somebody in the Bible. And the guy's looking at me. I remind him of somebody in the Bible. I said, yeah, this guy named Nicodemus. You remind me of him. He was almost a perfect man. And yet the Lord said to him, you still need something. You need another life. Brothers, we need to be so equipped with all these cases in the Gospel of John. We can apply them in the gospel and ministering Christ to people. So we have to know Nicodemus. We have to know him. He needs another life, okay? Let's go to the next one, okay? Thank you. Okay, brothers, you can sit down. I'm going to have some more volunteers now. Okay, so I need 2 more brothers to come up, okay? You don't have to be living with anybody, okay? So who's going to come up? Okay, how about Will and Will? It's like a law firm, Will and Will. Okay, now which ones of you, one wants to be the Samaritan woman? Okay, so are you the Samaritan woman or you? Okay, here, come over here, Samaritan woman. Okay, now, when you read about the Samaritan woman, very quickly, once you get into it, you realize, wow, she is really thirsty. She is not satisfied. Okay, she had 5 husbands, and the one she was living with was the 6th, and she still was thirsty. Okay, so I need 5 more to come on up here. Okay, just some brothers, come on up, Eli, and yeah, come on. Oh, okay, come on up. 5, just come on up. 5, yeah. Okay, so this is the 6th, so we'll put him right here. Okay, 5 husbands, come on down, yeah. Okay. Oh, we still need 1 more. Come on, Xavier, Eli can't get up there, okay. Okay, so here's this poor Samaritan woman. And the first husband, sorry, didn't satisfy. Then we tried the second husband, didn't satisfy. 3rd one didn't. 4th one didn't. 5th one didn't. Okay, you can't wave your hand yet because you're still trying out this guy. Okay, listen. It sounds funny, but it points to a need in man. Man is thirsty. Man is not satisfied. And so, your husband might be photography equipment. You got to have the latest camera. That one that you had last year just does not satisfy. With some of the guys, it might be cars. That last car, I need something better. Every one of us has the same type of problem. We're not satisfied. And so with girls, because I have a daughter, so I'm free to say this, I cannot believe how many shoes she bought. When she was 3 years old, we take her into the department store, and she's sitting there in the cart, and the only word out of her mouth was, shoes, shoes. And like, how many shoes can you buy? I mean, there's the winter gear. You got to have the right boots, And then there's the summer gear, and you have to have the right colors that match the things that you're wearing. And then there's the sandals, and there's different types of... I never knew there could be so many types of shoes. Okay, listen, sisters, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, Coral, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know. I mean, Coral, if we got a chance to open your closet, the shoes might all fall on us, right? This is the way we are. We always want something else that doesn't satisfy. And the Lord said to her was, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that speaks to you, you would have asked and he would have given you living water. And eventually they started talking, they went back and forth, but eventually at the end, she dropped her water bucket, which meant that she got the living water. And she went into the city, and you know what she said? Come see a man who told me all that I've done. Is this not the Christ? Eventually, you know what she reached? The seventh. All the first 6 never satisfied her. But when she touched Christ as the 7th one, that was the completion of her search for satisfaction. Christ became her satisfaction. The living water flowing in satisfied her. Do you see why? So, sometimes we meet people in the gospel, they're just not satisfied. They're not happy. Don't condemn them. Don't say, oh, what's wrong with you? You're on your 5th and this and that. No. Just realize it's a need. They're thirsty. They're thirsty. They're not satisfied. You know what? One of the brothers was telling me that, I think being from Texas, y'all know Troy Aikman, right? He's a famous Dallas Cowboys quarterback, won a couple of Super Bowls. So they started telling me that either the first or second Super Bowl that he won, they went up and he was sitting in a chair with a can of beer open, and he was weeping. After winning the Super Bowl, he was just weeping. And you know why he was weeping? Because he was so empty inside. He reached the pinnacle. He got it. And yet, there was no satisfaction. Why should we wait until we're that age to try to find out that there's no satisfaction? This woman speaks to our generation, speaks to all of us, that nothing in this world will satisfy us but the living Christ as the living water flowing in and flowing out of us. This is what satisfies. Okay, thank you, brothers. That's the second illustration. Okay, now, don't worry, we're going to have another one too. Okay, let's skip down to D, the need of the impotent, life's enlivening. Okay, and then I need one person here for this illustration here. One brother. That doesn't matter. You don't matter lying down, right?
No.
Oh, okay. So lie down right there. Okay, so here's this man, and he's lying down, waiting for an angel to come and touch the water, and the first one in will get healed of whatever infirmity that person had. He was there 38 years in that condition. That's what it says in John 5. 38 years, lying down, waiting to see when that angel touched the water if he could be the first one in. And Jesus comes up in the middle of that situation, and he says to him, do you want to get well? Has Jesus come to you and said, do you want to get well? Listen, all of us are just like that impotent man. Do you want to get well? And you know what he said? It's so interesting what he said. He says, well, I don't have anybody to help me to get in the pool when the angel touches the water. And then Jesus said, rise, pick up your bed and walk. And immediately, rise, pick up your bed and walk. And yeah, I don't know if it was that dramatic, but but anyways, he rose. He picked up his bed. He was enlivened by the word of Jesus. Now, I want you to get the picture here. The picture is so amazing. He was in the best that religion had to offer. I want you to think about this. Okay, write down all these things that were there, okay? I wrote them down today because I was like, wow, this is amazing. Number 1, he was in the holy city. Number 2, he was by the holy temple. Number 3, there were the holy angels there. Number 4, it was the time of a Jewish feast. There were the holy feasts. Number 5, it was the Sabbath day. Number 6, Moses was very much part of the Jewish nation there. Number 7, they had the Holy Scripture. Okay, you think about that for what religion had to offer. Wouldn't you say that was the best? You couldn't find anything better than all those things that the Jewish religion had to offer. And yet, as good as those things were, they couldn't help that man get up and pick up his bed and walk, no matter how good they were, until the little man Jesus walked into the scene and said, "Rise, pick up your bed and walk." And immediately he was enlivened. Okay, listen, you might think, well, brother, I've never been lame. Yes, you have. You might say, well, I've never been laying on the ground 38 years. You might say, well, I can identify with Nicodemus or that woman, but this man, I'm not sure I can identify with that. Okay, well, then let me ask you a few questions. Let's see if we can identify. Okay. When somebody asks you to pray for 30 minutes by yourself, how good is everybody? How strong are you to do that? Just asking. You don't have to raise your hand. I just want you to think about it. But if the same person comes up and asks you to go play some sport all night, how fast are you to go and play that sport? You got all sorts of energy to go play. But when it comes to just praying for 30 minutes, okay, let's cut it down. How about let's say you just pray for 10 minutes by yourself. Are you like that impotent man? Can you pray for 10 minutes? Let's cut it down even more. Can you pray for 5 minutes? By yourself, you and the Lord, for 5 minutes. And yet, if somebody asks you to do something fun, you've got all sorts of energy. If somebody asks you, can you read the Bible? Just read one book of the Bible. You know, we had this thing called the John Reading Challenge. I couldn't believe how hard it was to read one book of the Bible. I'm not condemning anyone. We're all the same. We're that man laying at the pool. Can you just read one book of the Bible? You have 30 days to do it. Not many finish that challenge. You know why? Because we're just like that man. We're impotent. We're strong for the things of pleasure. We're strong for the things of sin. But when it comes to the things of God, we're no different than that man laying at the pool. And the Lord said in that chapter, the hour is coming, and now is when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they that hear shall live. You know, when he heard the voice of the Son of God, that voice said, "Rise, pick up your bed and walk." Immediately, he had the strength to do that. We need the Son of God. You know what? You can't pray in the morning? Open to the Son of God and say, "I don't have the strength. Strengthen me to pray. Strengthen me to read the Bible. Strengthen me." You know, even some of the brothers and I, we've been practicing this one prayer. It's Ephesians 3:16. "Lord, strengthen me with power through your Spirit into the inner man." And I've been asking the brothers at the appointments this week, and they said, "Neal, we've been doing it." And I said, you do that just for a short period of time, you will see something will change in your being. Okay, but we're weak. We're all weak. We're just like that impotent man. Okay, thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left, and I'm going to cover the last two real quick. I'm going to stop at 8. Don't worry. I told you I wouldn't make all of them. Okay, then you have the need of the hungry, life's feeding. And this was in John 6 when he fed the multitude, and that's where we get the famous song, "I am the bread of life." Okay, this was at the Passover. This was the first feast of the year. This signifies the beginning of man's life. You know, in the beginning of man's life, man is hungry. Okay, you think about it. Even today, sitting here in this room, what are you hungry for? Just think about it. Hungry for a degree. Some of you guys are getting close to graduating. How many seniors do we have in the room here? How many seniors? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got a smattering of seniors. Hey, Are you hungry for a job? Well, I didn't hear you, bro. Okay, hungry. This is the beginning of our life. We're hungry for things, just hungry. Okay? Hungry for that first time that we have a relationship that culminates in marriage. We're hungry for that. We're hungry to have children. Hungry for all those things. This typifies man at the beginning of his life, and it's just everything. Once you get it, Abby, you're just going to say, well, I did it. I got that degree. I went to UT. You're one of the chosen from your high school, Abby, that came to UT, right? Okay, let me tell you, Abby, I hope you do get a degree, but it's not going to satisfy the hunger. Only Christ as the bread of life will satisfy that hunger. At the beginning of life, we need Christ as the bread of life. That's what we need. Hey, Jocelyn, don't we need this? What are you hungry for, Jocelyn? Don't say it. Okay, what are you? Oh, no, I'm saying in your human life, what are you hungry for? Okay, don't say it. We're all hungry. Only Christ can meet that need. Okay, then finally, the last one is when they were there and they were at a great feast, and I'll read it to you. It says, now on the last day, the great day of the feast. Remember, it's the last day, the great day of the feast. Jesus stood and cried out, saying, if anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Don't you think that's somewhat, it's not logical? Last day of the feast, they've been eating and drinking for 7 days, and he says, now, if anyone thirsts, come to me and drink. You would think he'd say it at the first day, but he says it at the seventh day, after the last day, after they've been eating and drinking for 7 days. Why at the last day of the feast? I'm going to tell you why, because Abby, when you do get what you're after, when you're successful, that's your last day of the feast, and you're thirsty, even when you accomplish what you decided to accomplish. You know, I know that you played like on a softball team, isn't that right, in high school? Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, you told me before. It's not like secret information I got or anything. Okay, did you guys go to any games and win like championships? Mm-hmm. See, you're smiling. Okay, you know what? You had a last day. And at the end of that, as good as that championship was and as beautiful as that trophy was, because my daughter was in soccer. We have trophies all over the house now. Okay? Thirsty. Abby, you did so well in softball. Were you a pitcher?
I was.
Yeah, you were a pitcher. I think you told me that. Did you ever pitch a shutout? Mm-hmm. You know what? There's a last day to even the shutouts. You got it. You accomplished it. You made it. And you're thirsty. This is what we all are. I'm just using Abby as an example, but all of us are just like this. When we get what we're after, then we're thirsty. And only Christ as life can meet our need. So when you go to the college conference this weekend, you're going to hear this word life again and again and again. And just realize that this book reveals Christ as life to meet every man's need. You're moral, you need life. You're immoral, you need life. You're impotent, you need life. You're hungry, you need life. You're thirsty, you need life. Whatever your condition is, you need life. And all of us are this condition to some degree, one time or another. All of us are like this. But we just wanted to present this as a kind of a beginning, a introduction to John, so that you could really enjoy, when you hear that word life, realize this gospel is a gospel on life. And eventually at the end of this gospel, in chapter 20, he says, you know, many things could be written concerning Jesus. Even the libraries couldn't contain it. You know, it says, but these things are written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, and that believing, listen to this, you might have life through his name. That's the very end of chapter 20. You might have life through it. Why was this written? That you believe Jesus is the Christ, and that believing you might have life through his name. Okay, so should we break up? How do we usually do? 5 minutes or so in a group, and then we'll maybe testify a little bit after the group. So go ahead and break up and fellowship in the groups.